Thank you so much, Robyn, for sitting down and talking with me today and sharing a little bit of your story with our brand new online friends.
It's really good to be here, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, so you have a chapter in the Life Repurposed book. We're going to talk about that soon. But let's start out with something a little bit lighter. You're in South Dakota, and I want to know, what specialty is South Dakota known for? Is there a food that we would go out to eat? Is there a beverage or something? I was trying to think, like, is there something that says, like Chicago has deep dish pizza? What does South Dakota have?
Well, I haven't been a lifelong resident of South Dakota. I grew up in Michigan, but we've been in ministry here. My husband's a pastor. We've been here almost 3 years now, and we've lived close to South Dakota. I can't think of a good food that they're really known for, but the Black Hills are what
Yeah.
South Dakota is famous for. Mount Rushmore and just the beautiful area out there. We live close to the Missouri River, and so there's lots of people that come out here for hunting, pheasant hunting, and fishing in different seasons of the year. So
You've moved around a lot, so you've had to adjust to new cultures, new communities. How long does it take for it to really feel like it's home for you?
I usually feel like about a year is what it takes to really kind of feel like I've adjusted to a new place. I grew up in Michigan, then I went to college in Iowa, married my husband, and then when he felt his call into ministry, we started moving around, and yeah, about a year or so.
Yeah, it's hard for me to sometimes answer the question, where are you from? Because I don't know. Do you mean, where was I born? Where did I go to grade school? Where did I go to high school? Where do I live now?
Oh, yep, yep. Well, I grew up all the way through till college in Michigan, so I feel that like that's home. But
Yeah.
our kids, we have 4 kids, and they probably don't really know where to say they're from.
Realm. So I'd like to know a little bit about how you got started as a writer.
Oh boy. I have always loved writing. I mean, even in elementary school, we would have Writers of Wyoming. I grew up in Wyoming, Michigan by Grand Rapids. So we'd like we would all write little stories, and then they would publish them in this big volume every year.
Oh, how
And I
fun.
got in that a couple times, and just kind of really have always loved writing. So I've blogged for years and years, and I've always had the desire to write a book. So it's really exciting to be in Life Repurposed.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful, and it's so exciting. But yeah, for now, I've just been blogging, and I'm working on a book about my experience with depression. But we'll see how long it takes me to get that to fruition, because I tend to get scared and doubt myself, and so there's some things I have to overcome before it gets there.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of writers go through that. And I'm guessing that some of our listeners also go through that when there's something in their life that they're like having to get out of their comfort zone and do something brand new, something that makes you be really vulnerable. So let's think about, what do you think it is that puts us in that mindset of like, I'm not going to be able to do this. What if?
I want to say it's basically our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've realized in my life that my thoughts have kept me from jumping out into experiences I'd like to have more often than not. I mean, I've done lots of interesting, exciting things, but some of the things I really feel like God's called me to do, I let my thoughts take over, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
try it, because I think, well, what if, as far as writing a book goes, what if no one reads it? Or what if they read it and they don't like it? And uh, yeah, it's silly, because I know that it's something that God wants me to do and I want to do, and I just drag my feet. So I'm sure lots of people do the same thing with things that they might feel called to,
Mm-hmm.
and we have to try to think about the reasons why God is asking us to do something or giving us an opportunity to do something, and focus on those reasons, and it will get
Mm-hmm.
us past those places that get us stuck.
That's a perfect segue into what you write about in your chapter in Life Repurposed, because you write about how we decorate our minds with thoughts sort of similar to how we clutter up our homes sometimes with things. Yeah, so your journey, you share about how there was an event in your life or circumstance that brought you to a point where it was really full on crisis. Uh, Tell us a little bit about stepping into a new position in your career and how that led to really like a crisis moment for you.
Well, the crisis for me came when I tried a teaching job, which I even now I look back and I think, well, that is so it seems like such a dumb reason to get depressed because some people, they have horrific losses in their life or they have health concerns. And I thought, I still tend to think, well, just teaching shouldn't have made me that depressed. But it did because I had dealt with depression off and on to lesser degrees over the years. And this was just something that kind of brought it all my anxieties and all my insecurities. It only took a month before how I was thinking and just the pressures of um, an, a job I hadn't been in for 20 years, just all kind of turned into this major depressive episode where
Mm.
I just lost hope after just a month of being in the classroom. Um, so yeah, I mean, I say it seems silly, but I guess anything we go through can get us to that place of depression if we're thinking uh yeah, if our thoughts just keep spinning in the wrong
Mhm.
direction.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about all the things that come with the type of change you experience where you have this job offer, you have to step into a full-time job, juggle some things at home, brush up on some skills, stand in front of kids every day and teach a lesson, go home and spend your free time preparing. Just starting the list of all the things that I think about that would go into that, it feels overwhelming. And so have you
Yeah,
discovered that when you're in an overwhelmed state that you have the most struggle with the thoughts?
definitely. Yeah, even now, I mean, I have to recognize when things are getting to be too much for me. And it's so it's hard for me because I look at other people's lives and I see where they can do this, and this, and just their list of things they're doing is so long. And I think, well, I don't have a full-time job and I don't do this, but I can get overwhelmed at times. So
Mhm.
I have to know myself and
Yeah.
catch it before it gets out of control. I guess I had underestimated how much it was going to take, and I was going into it really thinking, "Oh, this will be fun. It'll be so much fun," and I forgot that it was a lot of work too, and I wasn't prepared for that.
So, what happened then after that first month of teaching?
Well, I got to such a point of hopelessness that um, I talked to my husband, and we went to the hospital. Had to get my grades figured out the night before
Yeah.
first, but then we went to the hospital and told them how I was feeling, and they it was kind of funny because they were looking for a place for me to go, and they're like, "Oh, well, our hospital's filled up, and maybe we can get you into, they were naming these places that were like hundreds of miles away." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to, make it inconvenient for Gary to visit me." And I was like, I think I'm okay. I'll just go home." And they said, "No,
Mm,
once you've expressed thoughts that are that bad, that hopeless, we can't let you go home." And
mhm.
they find there was a hospital that opened up closer across town, and so they took me over there by ambulance just because they couldn't even let Gary transfer me over there in our car. And I spent almost a week there. And while I was there, Gary came and visited me, and we talked about it. And I decided to let the teaching job go. So I quit that while I was in the hospital and then came home and just was able to have some time to recover and to start learning what it looked like to make sure that I stayed in a healthy emotional place. And, you know, I, I had dealt with depression off and on over the years, and it had never gotten that bad, but it was always kind of, there, kind of chronic, that when things got stressful, I would
Mhm.
feel depressed or anxious, crying, things like that. And just kind of white knuckled it through those times, and didn't do anything about it. Well, going to the hospital, it finally got me to the place where I realized, okay, I need to do some things to make sure that
Mhm.
this doesn't happen again, and just stay healthy emotionally.
Yeah. So you had some serious thoughts about harming yourself. There are a lot of people who come to that place and don't reach out for help like you did. What hurdle did you have to get past in order to reach out for help besides the logistics of the hospital being available?
Well, I think it takes a lot of courage to admit that you're feeling that bad.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't feel that courageous at the time, but I needed to tell my husband that I was feeling
Mhm.
that depressed. And some people don't do that. They just want to just hide it from everyone, and they won't reach out, and that's dangerous. Um, and well, one thing that does help a lot is if I write down my thoughts. So if I journal, that's a lot of times where that's a time where I will write down, type it up on the computer or something, just something that I went through that day, especially if it really made me upset or angry or sad. And if I can just write it down, I can look at it objectively and say, okay, I see where I was thinking a little bit off in that situation. Here's how I could have thought differently. And so I'm still working on that, getting stronger at catching those thoughts and replacing them with true things that God says about me in the Bible.
So you have put together some resources. You do a weekly blog. You are reaching out and helping people. Tell us a little bit about your blog, what kinds of things you cover there, and then about the Facebook community that you have.
Okay. Well, I blog at robynmulder.com, and that's Robin with a Y. And yep. And I try to have a Focus Friday blog post every week. Sometimes it turns into a Super Saturday or Meditative Monday or something like that. But I've been pretty consistent. I for a while I was really sporadic all over the place, but now it's almost every Friday. And so I pick something that I've been dealing with lately, or something that just God has kind of put on my heart, and I blog about that. And sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's a little more humorous if I have something funny happen, and then I draw some spiritual applications for the reader, and share a verse and a couple questions to kind of help them think through how it relates to their lives. Um, so yeah, and that it runs the gamut. Sometimes I write about depression, sometimes I write about just faith things, sometimes a lot of times about oh, procrastination and trying to get over that, you know moving ahead with our dreams and things like that. So um and I'm probably preaching to myself half the time, because it's
Hey, that's this whole
things that I
show is
struggle
that
with.
for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's well, I think that resonates with people when we're sharing what we're struggling with.
Mhm.
Um, those are the ones that I have a lot of comments that say, "Oh, I felt that way too," and so I know that we're not alone. We can
Yes.
encourage each other. And you asked about the Facebook group.
Mhm.
I started a group called Catch Your Thoughts with Robyn Mulder on Facebook, and it's a private group, so you have to ask to join. But I just you just have to ask to be there, and then I'll let you in. And I try to share if I find resources online, like someone's video or an article, I'll post that there. I share my blog post there. Back in October, I did like a short, oh, 3 to 5 minute video every day of October. Just I challenged myself. So there's some things there to look at about different aspects of catching our thoughts. And it's based on 2 Corinthians 10:5, where it
Mm.
says, we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And that's what I have to keep practicing, because it's hard. Our thoughts want to go in all different directions, and it can
Yeah.
get us into so many bad places emotionally if we just let them go all over.
Right. Yeah, so you said something about keeping on practicing. That's a message for all of us because that is life.
Yeah.
We're always practicing, reiterating, moving in a new direction when God sends us, always open to that idea of changing. And that's to me what a life repurposed is being able to change directions, learn from my mistakes, admit my mistakes first.
Yep. Very important. Yeah.
As we wrap up, what word would you leave with the woman who's listening, who is struggling with overwhelming thoughts, negative thoughts, depression? What would you want to say if she were sitting across from you right now?
I think I would just want to say, don't give up, because it can be tempting. The pressures of life can get to us sometimes,
Mhm.
but depression is very treatable. And if you reach out for help, there are people that will help you get to better places emotionally. And yeah, just don't give up.